So, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'll share with you my screen. No, it's not working. So let me try again. Yes, now it's working. Well, sorry about the room. It seems that when Rafael left the room, the room was closed. Anyway, here we are again. So happy to be here. And last week we stopped where it's highlighted, right? So we'll start from there. If you guys have any questions from previous week, please feel free to do. And also feel free to jump any moment in time during our study, all right? Later, when visiting the large working plants of the Colony Department of Traffic and Transportation, I found that my suppositions had been right. Let me stop here straight away to get your attention that the colony is so well organized, better than what we have here. So what we have here possibly is a trial of what they have over there. But he's mentioned to us here that they have a traffic and transportation department. Well, traffic to what? A lot of spirits running left and right? Or we have really means of transportation? So we could take several spirits from place A to B. To have a department for transportation, let's think about UK, right? We have Southwestern Railways, we have a few other places, we have the metro, we have a few things. So I believe they are talking about something that take the mass back and forth, right? Just a curiosity, just a curiosity. So let's move on. Lysias gave me no time for my customary questioning. We climbed in, settled in the comfortable seats, and the Airbus started in silence. Here we go. They are referring to the Airbus. That's exactly the same name we use in the original language of this book. Well, of course, same name, translated, but the same meaning. They call Aerobus. And I guess that was very, very hard to the people when the book was written to accept something like that.
Yeah.
Let's think about Brazil 80 years ago. Most of the people never had TV at home. Telephone was something very, very difficult to find. Transportation, most of the people that had to walk to go to work. If you were in a capital, perhaps you had to get a massive bus. Not many trains available at the time either. And then someone come to us and tell us that they have an Airbus in the spiritual world. Well, I bet a lot of people thought he was in the cuckoo land, and a lot of people tried to tell that he was really having problems. But I think we moved from that era, and now we are better prepared to understand things that Andre Luiz brought to us. Interesting. He's saying the Airbus started in silence. We have to remember that at that time, any engine on Earth was a combustion engine. A combustion engine is noisy. It's very noisy. Depending on the type of engine, it's really very noisy. But nowadays, we have a different technology. When we cross the streets now, we need to be more careful because we don't hear the car coming closer anymore because it's so silent. The electrical cars are so silent that we need to be more careful. So at that time, tell someone there was a means of transportation that was silent, anyone would say that is impossible. But nowadays, we do have means of transportation that's very silent, very silent. And some of the cars, they have even to put an artificial noise for safety. So that just came to my mind. I felt uneasy in this unusual environment among so many strangers. We traveled at such a speed that I found it impossible to discern the details of any of the constructions that we passed. Well, if that was really fast, probably something like a TGV that I got this afternoon, by the way. If we try to see things that are closer to the train, speed train, it's very, very hard to identify what they are, only from distance. So he's describing here that the Airbus is so fast. At the time, the trains were scarce and they were not that fast. Today, we have speed trains that can go up to 600 miles an hour in Japan, for example. Here in Europe, they are not that fast, but in Japan, they are really fast. We travel as, sorry, miles or kilometers, I don't remember anymore, maybe kilometers, it's a bit less. Yeah, but nevertheless, is massive, the speed. We travel at such a speed that found impossible to discern. All right, we read it already. We covered a good distance, stopping briefly every 3 kilometers, until 40 minutes later, Lysias informed me that we had arrived. The scenery before my eyes was of exquisite beauty. The woods were in bloom, and the fresh air was filled with gentle aroma. Hi, Ebony, go on.
Going back to the previous sentence, why do you think they stopped every 3 kilometers? Is it because to let passengers out?
Yeah.
Or some of the, okay.
Yeah, I guess. I wasn't there, but I guess that's the only thing that comes to my mind.
Okay.
Yeah. And I like those kind of questions because sometimes I'm not kidding. Sometimes a little thing like that make us think, and we may go very, very far away.
Well, it could be for another reason. It doesn't necessarily. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why I always say to people, ask. There's no such a thing like a stupid question, or there's no such a thing. A question can always bring knowledge. And especially the kids, they are afraid of ask, right? Because they think they're going to do something wrong, blah, blah. I tell my kids, ask. Don't think about it, ask. The only thing you may hear maybe is a no. Perhaps you hear for something very interesting and you learn something. So appreciate it when you guys participate. But moving on, we have woods, forests, right? What do you have in your woods? I have trees, I have grass, I have animals in the woods. I guess we are in different part of the world here in this room, but I guess the woods where Ebony is no different than the woods around here, right? So I think the woods in the spiritual world have the same thing. Animals, water, trees, leaves, birds, like. And a different thing that brought my, do the spirit need to breathe? What do you think? You, Ebony, what do you think? Do the spirits has to breathe?
Yes, they do.
Good.
Yeah, we do have to breathe. I don't know if we're going to be breathing oxygen, but we have to breathe.
Well, if they are on Earth, they will breathe oxygen. Okay. If they are in a different planet, they will breathe whatever they have on the other planet.
Okay.
And a lot of people have hard time to think about that. And in this sentence, he's telling us, even the perfumes of the woods is very gentle. So when we go very early in the morning around the eucalyptus trees, for example, that very nice smell, that aroma. So he's telling us here that the woods in the spiritual world have exactly the same characteristics as we have here, right? So it's so difficult to people to think that is a possibility.
And we are using our perispiritual lungs to breathe, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what about spirits who have damaged their spiritual organs? How do they cope then in a situation like that?
In a mediumship meeting, we will see spirits coming, telling us they are having difficulty to breathe, they're having pain, they're having massive damage in their bodies, missing parts and things like that. The only advantage, if I may say like that is in the spiritual world, there are other techniques to recover your spiritual physical body, if I may say like that. Because for the spirit, that's very physical for the spirit. His body is very physical for him. Not for us, but for him it is. So I would say that they have way better support to recover their bodies. And we see that in the meetings as well, right? But they will suffer. As spirits who committed suicide, quite often they have damage in the organs to the point that they need to reincarnate with the damage to be able to recover their spiritual body. So it's, once again, it's case by case, but yeah, they will feel the damage. It was a miracle of colors and lights. A great river wound its way leisurely, oh shit, some words are not easy, leisurely between green banks sprinkled with blue flowers. The slow-moving waters shimmering in the sun reflect like a crystal mirror the many shades of blue in the sky. Well, I think we are now kind of prepared to accept that we have water in the spiritual world, right? When we have water, they flow in a sense, in a direction. And here he's describing a river like we know. The water flowing from A to B. And he's also mentioning the sun, right? So the very same sun that warm our bodies here also warm the spiritual world. Wide path cut through the woods in different directions. At regular intervals, large trees spread their friendly branches, offering areas of shade in the sun-bathed landscape. Here and there, fanciful shapes, branches invited one to rest. I was simply charmed, and Lysias noticed by enthusiasm. This place is called the Water Park. It is one of the finest regions in the Astral City and a favorite meeting place for lovers. Oh,
Ooh.
Ooh.
good point. I won't talk about that now, but
Oh,
keep that in mind. You want me
that's
to
not
talk
fair.
about that? Okay, I'll talk about that.
Oh, yes, please.
You want me in trouble, I know that. But let's think about your loved ones here. When you find them in the spiritual world, what is your feeling about them? Exactly the same. If, a big if, I am a copy of what is happening on the spiritual world, we have possibilities that most of us were not prepared to accept. But we have with Andre Luiz the information about people that were waiting for the husband or for the wife to return to the spiritual world.
Beautiful.
Why? Because one love another. When we talk about love, there are two senses of the word. The love, the feeling, and the love that most of people think that's about sex. The love we're talking about here is feeling. I'm not saying that the other one does not exist, but this one here in particular, when he talked about lovers, he's talking about the love between human beings, between fathers and sons, right? But remember, we are a copy of what they have on the spiritual world. And if we do pay a little bit of attention, we'll see the very same mechanisms we have in the spiritual world. Let's say from the level of Astral City to a higher level, they have exactly the same mechanisms. Same materialization, mediumship. So it leaves opportunities to think about other things. So I'll stop here, otherwise I'll talk too much. It's not the objective of this study, but these remarks brought a series of interesting questions to my mind, but Lysias gave me no chance to vet my eager curiosity. Pointing to a large and imposing building, he explained, that is the colony water's work. The waters of the Blue River that you see over there are drawn into huge compartments from which they are distributed to every district in the colony. So how they will distribute water from place A to place B? They will need pipes. They will need pumps to pressurize the water through the pipes. So that means that when you want to have water in your place, you need to open a tap. Most of the people, even here, they don't realize what is behind that tap. But there are massive plants to pressurize water from place A to B. So as he's mentioned here, I'm led to believe they also have an equivalent plant over there. They may not use the same principles we use because they may have a better technology, but they have something to do it. Beyond the grounds of the Ministry of Regeneration, the waters converge again. The river then flows along the ordinary course towards the great ocean of substances, invisible to the earth. Invisible to the earth. As a matter of fact, water here has quite a different density than that on earth. It is much lighter and purer here, almost fluidical. If they have a river, the river flows into an ocean that we don't see. I think it's easy to understand that they are in the different type of matter, right? Is water, but it's not the same water we have here, or at least is not in the same density, right? Noticing the magnificent buildings in front of us, I asked, which ministry controls distribution of water? It is one of the rare materials activities under the Ministry of Divine Union. Water is so important that the higher department in the city is responsible for the water. The water we have in our home can be positive for us or negative for us. And I'm not talking about bacteria, virus, anything like that. I'm talking about the energy in the water. If we get a drum, let's say 20 liters drum of water, and we leave that drum very close to paint for 24 hours, try to drink that water tomorrow. What is going to happen? The water will have a taste of chemicals, of paint. That's why we shouldn't have water closer to chemicals. Water absorbs energy. Water absorbs vibration. It is scientifically proven. So if my place is a shambles, fighting all the time, just listening bad music, doing all sort of things we shouldn't do, what do you think your water will contain? On the other hand, if your place is very calm, you listen to nice music, you're always having the gospel at home, you always do what you're supposed to do, your water becomes lighter. Your water becomes almost a medicine, because the energy, the vibrations of the ambience will also change the vibration of the water, and that will be positive for everyone. No, I won't let you talk now.
I just wanted to say that, as a matter of fact, Lysias explained that very same principle about water and its magnetic properties to Andre Luiz. I don't know if we've passed that chapter already, but he did explain it in detail. So I just wanted to say what you're saying is not anything new or strange. It's actually perfectly accurate.
Very good, very good. So let's move on. What time is it? We still have time. Really exclaimed, at a loss for how to reconcile the two. Lysias smiled and continued with his explanation. On Earth, very few people recognize the importance of water. Here, in the Astral City, our attitude is different and our knowledge of the subject is far greater. It is obvious that all services that are created need energy and attention to remain in good order. In this spiritual city, we learn to be grateful to the Father and his divine labors for such a gift. Being more deeply acquainted with the properties of water, we know that it is one of the most powerful vehicles for all fluids, whatever their nature. I don't know what they're going to say here. And before Ebony give any spoil alert, let me say something here. We know through the Spiritism that we have what we call universal cosmic fluid. Water is the best example we may have for that. This fluid that we don't see and we are all surrounded by it in the universe is like water. On Earth, everywhere you find water is flexible. You can work with water. You can change even the properties of the water. But there isn't any human being any animal, any tree, even minerals that they do not contain water. It's everywhere. It's in the air. It's everywhere. So water is the best example to understand what this universal cosmic fluid is. Here, water is used especially for nutritive and medicinal purpose. In the Ministry of Assistance, you will find several departments entirely devoted to mixing pure water with certain elements drawn from solar rays and from spiritual magnetism. We have in our Spiritist Center, depending on the type of work they do, we have several types of spirits working together. We have spirits with knowledge of energy. We have spirits with knowledge of herbs. We have spirits with knowledge of, it's like drugs. It's not, drugs is not the name, the correct name, but it's like medicines, if you can say like that. And when we take our water to the Spiritist Center to be magnetized or to be fluidified, what the spirits do, they mix those products into the water according to what you need. If we have, so then I have a question for you. We have 3 people with 3 different diseases. Should they take the bottle of water and change? Or should they get a bottle of water specifically for him and take back home? What do you think? You don't think? Oh dear. Too hard question? No.
No, well, I think they should get it specifically for them.
That's right. That's right. Hi, Denise. But why people don't talk about that, right? But in the reality, if in your family, for example, you have one kid and your mother, for example, if you go to the center, you may have 1 bottle to everyone if you don't have anything in particular. So that water will be energized just to give you like a boost, if you like. But if you have a problem, a particular problem, it is recommended to have 1 for you, not for everyone. Quite often, when we have water fluidified, after when we go to drink, the water has a different taste. Why the water has a different taste? Because there are different products in the water. Let's move on then. In most districts of our extensive colony, the water thus prepared is basis of our diet. It happens though that of all of us, the Ministers of Divine Union have reached the highest degree of spiritualization. Consequently, they were allotted the task of general magnetization of the water of the Blue River. And then we think, this spirit must be something else compared with us, right? He is able to magnetize a massive amount of water. We have a hard time to magnetize a bottle of water, and he is able to magnetize a massive reservoir. To purify it enough so that it might be used by all of the inhabitants of the Astral City. After the ministers of Divine Union cleanse the water, why do I have to cleanse the water? So that means the water is dirty. The water needs to be treated. Is that? Maybe. Various institutions carry out the specialized work of enduing it with nutritive and medicinal substances. When the different ducts join again at distant point opposite these woods, the river flows away from our area, bearing some of our spiritual qualities. Interesting. Very interesting. I was completely astonished in face of these explanations. On Earth, I remarked, I never heard of anything like this. We have to think about mid-20s, century 20s, right? At that time, I'm not sure if they had fluoride in the water, but we are doing, not in that scale, but the human beings are doing things like that already. We are treating water to minimize diseases. We are treating water to minimize decay. We are doing things like that already. Far from what they do, but we do little things as well. I was completely astonished in the face of this explanation. On Earth, I've remarked I never had. I have it.
Your screen is not. You're not sharing your screen.
Really?
The page is not moving.
Just a minute. Let me share again.
Maybe... Thank you, Ebony. I closed my computer.
Can you see the back? Can you see it back?
No.
No.
Not yet.
Maybe I'm in a hotel right now. Maybe the internet of the hotel. Can you see it?
No.
Well, I'm sharing here. So the problem is the internet here. Let me try it once more. If not, we're going to be talking about it. And then next week we can do again.
You can read it. It's fine if you just read it.
Anything?
No.
Okay, so I'm afraid I'll have to read and you won't be able to see. Man is inattentive, Lysias continued. For many centuries, the sea has kept his environment in balance. Rain has supplied, Rain has supplied him with food, and the rivers have been vital in the formation of his cities. So let's thinking about it a little bit. We also have a rain in the spiritual world. But now that we accept the river, accept the rain is not a big deal, right? So we are prepared to accept rains, storms, and things like that in the spiritual world. But I would like to get your attention for something very common on Earth. The cities, the great majority of the cities, they are bearing rivers. Why is that? Because we need water to survive. I cannot say about every single spiritual city, but Astral City, well, the place for Astral City was chosen near of water. We have to remember that when they start to build the city, even on Earth, we have very little techniques, very little knowledge about anything, but we have our instinct of survival. And the human instinct of survival we need two things mainly, food and water. So the city was chosen in a place full of water. So they could also survive over there. Water is blessing in his home and work, and in the principal and most important element in his physical body. Yet man goes on thinking himself the absolute master of his world, forgetting he is before any other consideration a child of the Most High, of God. The time will come, though, he will follow our example and recognize the value of this divine and precious gift. He will understand that the water in every home absorbs the mental characteristics of its inhabitant. Let me just try again. I give a few more minutes. Let me try to see if we'll share now. I will share for the last time. Can you see anything?
Yes. He's back.
Yeah, so that was the bandwidth here. Sorry for that. I'll complain with the hotel tomorrow.
Guilherme, I'm struggling to think about rivers and land. So because if there's a river, there's a piece of land there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling to imagine. So I just find it hard to understand. So Earth is like that. So Astral City is here. So is that all ever layers?
Mm-hmm. Nowadays, when I'm speaking to teenagers, I use the word multiverse, because with the Marvel comics, movies, and everything like that, it's easier to the kids to understand, oh, it's like a multiverse. Yes, it's like a multiverse. So you have different layers, you have different densities of matter, you have different status of matter, really, in different, as you move away from the center of the earth, it's getting thinner and thinner and thinner, the matter. But if you are on top, on very top, that is still dense for you, like it's dense for us here. When we die, we leave that matter that's very dense where it belongs. And then we'll go to a place where our physical, I'm calling physical, but for the sake of terminology, my spiritual body is very dense in comparison with the area I will be. The earth, the water, the wind, the heat, the cold is very real. Not for us on earth, because we are in a different states of vibration and density. But for us, spirit, when we die, it's exactly the same like here. They need to eat, they need to drink, they need to work, they need to get transportation, they have lands, they have water, they have food, they have everything. But we have a very hard time to accept it. But then I'm obliged to say that now, if you don't believe in what I'm saying, complain with Chico Xavier and Andre Luiz, not with me, because they wrote that. Because people may think that, well, Guilherme is not, I think he's wrong. Yeah, I may be wrong. But I'm just reading what they did. And he's there. If I'm wrong, they are wrong. Mm-hmm. If we start to say that Chico Xavier and Andre Luiz are wrong, we need to think about, are we Spiritists or not? Because if they are wrong, I don't know what to tell you. It's basically like the basis of everything I do on the Spiritism will crack. Because I have two main bases, Kardec and Chico Xavier. There are others, but I'm using those two more often. if they are not right, I have a massive problem. Because then, what am I doing here?
Thank you.
But as I don't believe they are wrong, I will continue our study.
Thank you. Thank you, Darren.
In the physical world, my friend. Oh, sorry, I jumped one very important point. The time will come, though, when he will follow our examples and recognize the value of the divine and precious gift. He will understand that the water in every home absorbs the mental characteristics of its inhabitants. He caught me, Ebony, by the way. In the physical world, my friend, not only does water carry away the residues of material bodies, but it also becomes impregnated with our mental vibrations. It can be harmful in wicked hands, useful in generous one. When in motion, its current spreads the blessing of life and acts as a vehicle of divine providence, absorbing man's bitterness, hatred, and worries, cleansing his physical home and purifying its inner atmosphere. There are certain places we can go and the water is different. Near of woods, places where we have really mineral water, exactly from the place it is born. It's different. And if in our place, in our home, we take care about our home as it should, the water we will utilize will be different. Will be different. So that we have as a consequence good health and a few other things.
So, Guilherme, sorry. So here he's saying that you can change the water absorb the characteristic of the home. So it's saying that if you're a home that you pray, for example, with good vibrations, so when you open the tap in the sink, yeah, the water is going to be purified. Is that right? Understand that?
Well, I would say that if you do have reservoirs of water in your place, the water in the reservoir will be different. If the water comes straight from the pipe from the streets and you drink it, very unlikely you had time to change its properties.
All right, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, yeah.
Lysias fell into reverent silence while I gazed at the tranquil waters that had aroused in my mind so many sublime thoughts. Water is everything. Water is everything. So we still have 12 minutes. So I'll start this one. Learning about Astral City. There's one message here, just a minute, let me see. Okay. My generous friend was anxious to show me around the numerous districts of the colony, but pressing duties called him back. You will soon get a chance to visit the different departments of our activities, he said, encouragingly. You see, the ministries of the city are vast centers of intense work. And then we have people that believe we can do everything by our thoughts. Andre Luiz brought to us clearly that we need to move, we need to work, we need to do things. And we still have lots of people that think we do everything by our thoughts. A thorough inspection of any one of them would take several days. However, you will not lack opportunities. Even if I find it impossible to accompany you through Clarence's meditation, you will be granted a permission to visit any department you like. So it's not like a bit, you can go anywhere you want. You see, you have to have permissions, you need to have guidance, you need to have a kind of someone guide you through to allow you to have access to the right place. By this time we were back at the Airbus, and in few minutes we were in our way home. It did not feel again the sensation of uneasiness I had at the first experience, nor was I constrained by the presence of numerous passengers in the Airbus. I was almost at ease and fell to pondering over some of the questions I was anxious to solve. I took the opportunity to question Lysias further. You see, Andre Luiz, he loved to ask. He asked every time he had an opportunity. So we should do the same. Lysias, my friend, can you tell me whether our spirits' callings are like this one? Do they adopt the same characteristics? I think the answer is a bit obvious, but by no means. If on the physical sphere, each region, each town represent its own peculiar features, you can imagine the diversity of conditions existing in our planes. So we already have contact with 2 cities here, right? And not cities, no, he never asked, he never said there was a different city, but there was a, how they call?
Colony?
No, sorry, I'm mixing the book. This is Astral City. In the messengers, they have mentioned other type of cities, but they don't call cities. They call posto avançado. Seria like, that would be like a rescue place or something like that. It's an intermediate place before you go to Astral City. No, because I'm also doing a study with another book, so I'm crossing lines here. Sorry. But here, as on Earth, creatures are grouped according to the common sources of the origin and goal in view. So this is very nice. Why this is very nice? Because if you are Catholic, very Catholic, you live and breathe everything they say over there, it's very possible that you end up in a city that will fulfill what you need. If I'm, for example, from Umbanda, if I believe that that's the way to go, that's my religion, that probably I will end up in a group that share the same opinions, that share the same culture. If to the point that even language also is a one thing. Do you think the people in Europe, I'm in France right now, do you think a colony here in France is speaking Portuguese? A colony here is speaking French. A colony in UK is speaking what? English. So he brought to us something very simple. What you have on Earth, you have here. And we don't believe that. That's the thing. We have a hard time to believe that. Because we don't want, when we die, we all want to go to paradise, not paying taxes, not having to work, not having to do anything. That's what we want. But it must be remembered that each colony, as well as each of us, stands on a different steps of a great stairway to perfection. Regardless where you end up with in the spiritual world, we all will find the same stairs to the final place. Collective experiences vary among one another. We are only one example of such colonies. According to our chronicles, our predecessors often sought inspiration in the work of the devoted workers of another spheres. just as a settlement in information, now we seek our help. So they try to use as a benchmark, if we can use that word, a city in a higher sphere to build Astral City. But Astral City is used as a benchmark to cities that are below Astral City. So that's very interesting. Nevertheless, each organization possesses essentially unique characteristics. As I no longer pause in the conversation issued, I inquired, and did the idea of division into ministries originate here? Yes, it did. The pioneers of Astral City visited New Dawn, one of the most important spirit colony near us, where activities are distributed into departments. Our founder adopted this system, but substituted the word ministry for department, except in the case of the Ministry of Regeneration, which only obtained its promotion under our present governor. The idea was that the organization into ministries is more meaningful in a spiritual sense. I quite agree, I assented. It is important, Lysias continued, that you realize that our colony strongly stressed the principle of order and hierarchy. Merit is only standard used to value those who may be assigned to prominent position. So merit, everything in the universe is merit, on Earth and beyond. In 10 years, only 4 spirits entities have been granted missions of responsibility in the Ministry of Divine Union. As a rule, after long periods of apprenticeship and service, we reincarnate to continue our struggle towards perfection. I was completely absorbed in Lisa's words, and he went on. When newcomers arrive showing response to brotherly cooperation, they are lodged in a district of Ministry of Assistance. If, however, they are recalcitrant, they are taken to the Ministry of Regeneration. As they began in time to improve, they are then admitted as helpers in the service of assistance, communication, and elucidation in order to prepare themselves to their future tasks on Earth. So, what I would say, if you think you're going to Astral City, it's better be prepared. Not to go straight to one of the good ministries, but to start in the ministry before Ministry of Assistance, right? Because they have different levels. You only are able to go to the assistance, communication, and elucidation after you move. So probably we will arrive, if we arrive over there, in the Ministry of Regeneration, because we will need to be fixed before we do anything. But, well, I think it's time to close our study. That was very good to be here with you. Please accept my apologies for the inconvenience of the internet, but it's beyond my control. And I'm really looking forward to see you all in 2 weeks' time. Anyone want to have any question before we finish our study? Anything? No?
Thank
so
you.
Very good then. I wish you all a very nice evening and a wonderful week.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Demi.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.